Oh man, disaster has struck. An ice storm hit. Um, this is kind of a weird story. Right now I'm snuggled in bed with no power in the house. It's like 29 degrees outside. Everything's icing over. The It's kind of an interesting story how this went down. Because I've been following the YCOM, the Yamhill County Emergency Services, and especially after the first brownout that took place. So it's kind of an interesting story. Um, I don't know how much they would want me to say about it. Uh, my memory could be off on what they said, but I think I remember, what happened. But anyway, here's the story. Um, yeah, right now it's about 4:45. The I'd have to check my tweet to get the time just right, so I'm not going to say what time it happened. I think it was about somewhere between 2:30 and 3:30. I forgot what it was. You can check out my Twitter at Charles F. Bryce at Twitter and be able to see what time it happened on one of my tweets. But the everything started icing over probably earlier today. It started icing over. Um, Had to been in the morning on Friday sometime. Whenever it started icing over. Um, yeah, just a little bit. Actually, it was like Thursday night. I think it was sleeting. That's what it was. Thursday night it was sleeting a little bit, so there was a little bit of ice already around, I think. Yeah, 'cause I went someplace Thursday, and then this is Friday, and then it's now it's Saturday morning. Anyway, the how this night shaped up is pretty much how it went. So it was still daylight outside, and things were icing over, especially on the car and on other stuff, and it was real light. It wasn't that thick, and it wasn't too bad. So I went outside just right after it got dark and captured some of the rest of the. You can hear a GPS beeping in the background, but the everything started. It's like 29 degrees outside. It's raining, and it's all the ice on my car is wet ice. You can run your hand over it, and it's wet, and it's raining, just kind of lightly raining. Not very hard, but a little bit. It did rain pretty hard a couple of times. Um, but anyway, the went out several times. It sleeted. You can see on Twitch. I have a Twitch. Uh, Chucky 888888. You can see my videos on Twitch that I made of the icing on my vehicle of like what ended up being like a half an inch of ice. Basically, it was like a quarter inch earlier in the evening, and then by midnight, 1 a.m. ish, whenever I posted it on Chucky 888888 at on Twitch, it was like half an inch. I mean, it was thick. It looked like the emblem on my car was under glass. That's what it looked like. It was pretty. I'd never seen this. I've never been in an ice storm. Whenever I went outside about 1:30 a.m. ish, I took a second video, and it was up to that half an inch. The first one was like the first quarter of an inch, somewhere around 10 o'clock or so. I remember going out and making the first video. It was up to about a quarter of an inch, and crushed it on top of the recycle can. And it was a quarter of an inch thick then. So then about 2 or 3 a.m., a brownout took place. Lights flickered once. It's like, oh man, power is going to go out. And when I was out there making the second video, the first video showed everything at about a quarter inch outside. Made a tweet and posted it, a Twitch video at Chucky, CHUCKIE 888888, and then Charles F. Bryce on my Twitter. And so first it was like a quarter inch at about 10 or 11, and then by 1 or 2 a.m. it was up to a half an inch. I shined a flashlight into it. Looks like a glass, like glass has totally encapsulated my automobile. The door handles do not budge. The doors are all frozen over. It looks like there's a coating of glass about half an inch thick on my vehicle. That was amazing. The road was just wet at the beginning of the evening, and then by 1 or 2 a.m. it started building up on the road and freezing on my driveway. And I'm sure the roads look the same, unless they put salt on it. I have a trustworthy little camping lantern, because it's got a battery in it, rechargeable battery, and it's for a phone. And I got it at the lowest setting so it doesn't run out. It's got like 8 hours of light in it. But I started listening to the Wycombe Emergency Services, and after the first brownout, kind of listened to them and then turned it off. And then I ended up here. They had house fires. Fires all over the place. Little fires, little structure fires here and there and yonder. I don't know if they're related to the ice storm or what. It could be. I don't know. What electric wires get pulled out of the sides or ends of houses, and then it catches fire. I don't know. But then they started. They started with a bunch of limbs down, wires down, after midnight, and then it was after and it was just repetitive wire down, tree down, in the road, can't get around. Okay, we got around, now the fire station's out of power or whatever. Anyway, so it's almost like an impending disaster. They, so anyway, they started, when the power went out here, first it browned out once, and then about 30 seconds to a minute later, it went out and then came back and browned out, and then it was kind of on another bump, and then it went out completely. I was like, man, that took forever, because it was like, I mean, it took forever to actually go out. It browned out and then was just barely on, and then it went out for good. It was kind of weird how it happened. Anyway, the story, I listened to the story. I mean, I listened to Wycombe talk about it, and they talked about it glowing. He said, yeah, there's an RV park there which is out of power, and wire down, pole on fire, and glowing was the explanation. That's how they described it. It's glowing. That was anyway. That explains why it took so long to go out, because the power was there, but it not quite, and so then it was glowing, trying to kill. It was trying to go out, and then finally it just went out. I guess a limb hit the pole or wire, crossed the wires, knocked it down. And now, without power, got an old camping lantern here. So this is, so now I have no electricity. It's 29 degrees outside, so now it's kind of like, right now I'm guessing it's going to be a while before I have power. So I'm trying to figure out what to do, and I'm running it through my head. What do I do? And so I'm running through my head. I've got a generator that I can hook the refrigerator up to, and I picked it up at a restore. They had a Coleman 3500 watt there. Probably get it going tomorrow. Yeah, it's amazing I was able to find that, but it's a used one. I just want to keep the food good in the refrigerator. And then I've got a oil-filled heater that doesn't draw much heat, but it doesn't have a fan, so most of the electricity goes into heat instead of a fan. Kind of a mouthful. But it's going to be, I'm going to fire it up and run the generator with the heat for that, and then run the refrigerator. Yeah, run the refrigerator. I probably only try to keep it about 55 degrees, because I know that's comfortable, that's doable. I've been in a situation before where I've had to keep it where power kind of was out, or I was low on money. I forgot what it was, but I kept the heat down low and I survived at like 55 degrees. The heat was down as low as it'd go, and I survived at 55 degrees for like 2 weeks until the next paycheck came. So it worked just fine. I know I can do it again. Those oil-filled heaters are real good. They're filled with like silicone oil or some kind of oil, and they work great. They get really, really hot. And they do well. So I'll probably hook that up. And then the refrigerator. Gotta save the food if I can. Save the food in it from spoiling. So first thing in the morning, probably what I'll do is get the generator going, and then run one cable for the refrigerator and one cable to the oil-filled heater, and then plug in a fan to the oil-filled heater. I have to be careful of running too much, because it'll burn up the extension cords. Because I've got a high wattage one that I'll probably use, but that's probably what I'll do. Then I've got another backup little generator that's two-stroke thing that's really cheap that might prove to be handy. I don't know, for the coffee maker or whatever. But yeah, that's what the power's out, so it's an impending disaster of a whole bunch of other customers are without power too here in the Portland metro. So this will be interesting how this plays out. This is like day zero of it all, so this is going to be interesting to see how this plays out. Being a Saturday, won't be too bad to worry about work. I'm mainly going to concentrate on keeping them warm, trying to keep the pipes from freezing, and then trying to save the food in the refrigerator. That's probably the only things I'm going to do until the power gets back up. Then, I don't know. I might go to work on Monday. But anyway, that's that. This is like day one. The ice was still building up out there and raining. It's supposed to go to like 5 or 6 for several hours. It's supposed to change to snow at about 4 a.m. It didn't say freezing rain. It said snow, but if it's still raining, that's freezing rain if it's still raining. Because it's like 29 and it isn't supposed to get up above freezing until noonish, sometime at noon into the afternoon. So that means it's still building up. Don't tell them what else is going to be damaged. It's one thing to know, oh, okay, something damaged in the wires feeding town, because it's basically town that lost its power. But I don't know what that means. You know, there could have been another tree that fell somewhere else that we won't know about. So hopefully it's just the one though. And then it's what's on their priority list. I don't know what PGE is going to do, but yeah. Anyway, this is going to be interesting. I'm going to have to pull together my survival skills and maybe talk to the neighbors to see if they need any help. I don't know if I can help them any. I mean, help them. I don't know. I feel like I'm really prepared for it, but I don't know how much I can even help the neighbors. Anyway, this ought to be a pretty interesting little disaster to deal with, but we'll see how all this goes. Anyway, there it is.